Okay. Awesome. Welcome to this live chat, mainly talking about online monetization, the status we're at in Zambia. But also, if you remember, there've been quite a number of conversation about how does Zambia benefit from Facebook, YouTube, especially for more content creators across the country. And we've had parliament debate. Different content creators say it's possible, others are saying it's not. And there's been quite a lot. And recently, again, we've seen this the conversation restart with different artists coming up together. So we thought we should talk about it because I think for the past 3 years now, we've been looking into online monetization. What can we do about it to ensure that it works out for Zambia? But mainly, Zambia has to benefit from the content they're creating, especially that now you are actually taxed for boosting your content on Facebook. So it gets to be interesting to know how then do you make the most of the money that you are not only spending, but even your data is being used as either a product or as an influencer. And so it becomes very important that we actually have a better understanding of it. I can't promise to say we're going to have this chat for 1 hour, but probably 1 hour, 30 minutes. And we should be having 2 more parts to just get to discuss in detail about the other platforms and so on and so forth. But today, we're just here to set the tone and the foundation of how is the monetization landscape looking like in Zambia. And so today I'm joined by 2 amazing guests, or I'd rather call them co-hosts, around this particular topic because we've been working around it for quite some time. And so let me allow them to introduce themselves. That's Duncan and Reverend Walter. So I'll start with Duncan. Please introduce yourself and then let's get started.
Right.
Then I will reintroduce myself at the end after the 2 introductions. So Duncan, over to you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Duncan Sodala, also known as Hoster. I'm an artist and also an artist manager based here in Lusaka, Zambia.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm Reverend Walter Mwambazi. You know what I do here. But for the sake of this particular conversation, I am also a digital content creator. Among other things, I do use social media for a lot of influence, especially in the area of opinion and thought leadership. Thank you.
All right, and I'm Levy Syanseke. I work with Internet Society Zambia chapter, and the fact that I promote internet access, why not make the most of the internet by benefiting from real income? And that's where most of the chat for today gets to be about. So let's get started. What is online or monetization online, and what does it look like for Zambia? So I'll start with you, Rev, and then we can move to Duncan. I don't know who would want to be the first.
Well, I can. You called me on, so let me start. So, what is? Ask the question again. I missed that. You said what is
online monetization, and what does it look like for Zambia? What is involved?
Okay, so online monetization comes in quite a number of ways. The most obvious, especially for us here in Zambia, is the ability to utilize the platforms offered, like these socials we're on, in order to create and generate income. So there's what we call organic generation of income from within the platform itself, and then there's what we call external monetization through the fact that you have a reach, you have an audience. So when you do these two, then they are able to allow you to earn money. So in Zambia, the focus has been the outside. So the platforms currently don't pay for a whole host of reasons we'll be looking at. But for a number of people who've been able to build very large audiences, then they've been able to leverage that so that they are paid for endorsements, if you like. Holster, anything maybe you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think just to add to that, basically online monetization is, the ability to make money from the content that we make. As content creators in Zambia, we have people on different platforms that are doing different things. And right now, what it's looking like for Zambia, I mean, we do have a handful, and I really mean a handful. You can literally count them on your hands. I mean, on your on your two hands. You know, the people that are making money from this online monetization thing in Zambia. So we've been working at it for a couple of years to try and see how we can get these, you know, international companies like Facebook, YouTube, and the like to come on board, you know, and help Zambians make money. And you know, it's not only the content creators. We are also talking about people in what they call the gig economy, you know, people that are graphic designers, people that are voiceover artists, you know, people that write articles and stuff like that. They're doing a lot of work, but are not able to, you know, transfer this money. So this is what we have been working on doing for Zambia.
All right, that's a great summary. Now, before we get into the bit of how everyone else is supposed to be paid and so on, as Duncan you highlighted, it gets back to the question of if we have to talk about online monetization today for Zambia specifically, why does it matter? Why should we be concerned? Because you've said there are a handful that are making money, others are not. Yet they are content creators, and there could be many other reasons. Why should it be a matter of concern now that we should actually consider online monetization as a big case for Zambia?
Okay, I think I'll go first on that one. I feel like it really is a matter of urgency, if you will, because this is an alternative way for especially the young people that have grown up with the internet. This is an alternative way for them to make a living out of it. We do know that, you know, our economy is still growing, and you know, people are trying to find different ways of making money outside of just being employed by the government or being employed by, you know, people want to be self-employed, if you will. And this is one way in which we can earn money, is through all these platforms being properly monetized. So it's very important. It's cardinal.
Just adding to what you just said there, Duncan, just sorry before Levy, you come back. It is very, very cardinal because, you know, there are two things here. You touched on the gig economy there, Duncan, and another gentleman who is another very, you know, very creative gentleman that we interact with in our group called Mutwale. Actually, they are experts in economics and strategy around money and investment. And him and his team did some research on this, and they were able to demonstrate to ZRA that the gig economy you just touched on there, Duncan, is actually potentially worth a whopping $300 million per year.
Wow.
In this country, if we could get all the factors right, it's worth 300 million, because there's a whole other component which is far larger than us creatives, which is, like you said, the gig economy. What is exactly the gig economy? If we had good infrastructure in this country, we could run customer service. We could have outsourced customer service. We could have English tutoring, you know, services, because apparently in Southern Africa, we have the most legible accent amongst all Southern Africans. So Zambians are very easy to understand when foreigners who are learning English as a second language out there, Europe, in the US, are going there to become citizens, because when they want to be citizens, they have to learn the language. So this becomes a huge opportunity for income. Another aspect also, you've got Chinese right now. There's a huge influx of Chinese trying to come into Zambia. We have a lot of Zambians who've received scholarships to go into China, learn and come back. Do you know that that's another an income right there? Because those who speak Mandarin can teach Chinese English and the local languages. That's a gig right there. So and I could expand this. It's huge. There are so many areas where a proper formal setup with digital platforms can allow Zambians to tap into these international platforms. And you imagine a 25-year-old school leaver or a student in school, and they're being paid $200 per month. I mean, that's very good money for a Zambian. And imagine you're doing that in your part-time, you know, $200. Right. That's what, almost 5,000 kwacha extra. on top of whatever they're doing. And for those who don't have jobs, that could become a full swing thing. So there, Levy, just to add to what Duncan said, it's such a potentially huge space, and $300 million a year, that is some serious income for taxing purposes. It is so viable, but the barrier is obviously quality of internet, but the bigger one, which we're all suffering from right now, is the inability to get paid. That's your real nightmare there. That the fact that you can set this all up, but to get paid right now is a nightmare. And I guess we'll go into it just to illustrate what we mean. Back to you, Levy.
All right, thanks, Rev. We'll definitely get back on the bit, because a number of people that are in the gig economy, just for the sake of those that are following us online, the biggest barrier and challenge is the fact that, aside from probably the platforms like Meta or YouTube paying our content creators, one of the biggest challenges, even if they were to attempt to pay, the most common platform that they actually have to pay them through, currently, people have to lose over 40% of their money through the platform because they can't get it directly into the country. That's a conversation a bit later. But before we get into that, the bigger question, we've talked about content creators in Zambia doing the most, as we have seen from, I think, the content that they create. The question is, how big is our content creation landscape in comparison to the world? Let's talk about talent. Not the numbers, I know probably we can't match at all, but in terms of the quality of content, the quality of output, that most of those that are outside are literally buying or spending money on from the Zambian end. How big is it? For you, I'll start with you, Duncan, then Reverend.
I think it's pretty big. I think it's pretty big. And you touched on talent there. We do have a lot of talent. Are people buying Zambian music? Or I mean, sorry, you see, I'm a musician. I'm already going for music immediately. So, are people buying Zambian content? Yes, they are. Is it only Zambians in the diaspora and other international people? I think it's a good mix of both. So the possibilities are endless on that end, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, just jumping in further behind Duncan there, absolutely. Are people willing to buy content outside Zambia? Absolutely. Absolutely. Our biggest barrier has always been the fact that we can't leverage platforms. Let me give you an idea now. Now that we talked about the potential income, that the gig economy is, but let's zone into content creation. And let me show you, sometimes people don't realize how huge an industry this is. The number one highest earning income generator on YouTube right now is a guy called The Beast.
Mr.
The Beast.
Yeah.
The Beast, whatever he is, yes. Yeah. Mr. Beast, under 28. Mr. Beast, according to the stats for last year on the Forbes list, he earned $35 million. $35 million. His content, he released his latest video, he hit 55 million views in one day.
Wow.
That's how crazy he is. So he's got all manner of endorsements going on his page. He's so monetized. He offers on average anybody who comes on his platform to do whatever collaborations they do, because he does some very interesting stuff. He's a very creative guy. Crazy stuff he does. But really good stuff. And you can see the work he puts into his stuff, because when you watch it, you go, okay, this guy's doing his work. It's not just some lucky guy. No, the guy is putting in the work. So on average, he will pay people that feature on his platforms between $10,000 to $100,000 just to be with him on a particular. Yes, he'll pay.
He's been to Zambia, by the way. He had.
Wow.
Yeah, the lady that passed away, the one that was running an orphanage.
Oh yes, the one, the lady, the one that the president just gave a bus ride.
Exactly, yes. So he did a lot of work there.
I'm actually amazed that Rev is not aware, because he came. It's actually last year where he made some.
No, I didn't follow. I only learned about Mr. Beast this year because I saw his name on the Forbes list. So I said,
Right.
35 million. Let me check this guy out. I was blown away. I said, no wonder. But he's not the only one. I mean, there are so many content creators on YouTube earning north of $1 million every year. Easy. Like they are over 1,000.
Look,
They're not even 100,
just,
1,000.
just here in Africa, the biggest YouTube channel is an Egyptian food channel, which earns up to $3 million a year.
Yep.
Really?
Of food content. They just cook food.
That's what makes, you see, that's what makes this so exciting, because I follow Wodemaya. Wodemaya, I don't even know what his numbers are, but I know to do what it does, definitely earn some decent money, because he flies all these countries. He does really good content. I have absolute respect for Wodemaya. Very, very rich educational content, but provocative. And you look at his number, you look at what he's generating. He's able to live off that, like comfortably, pay a crew and go out.
He's now got 1.8 million subscribers on YouTube.
You believe that? And for him, it's just solid content. It's not entertainment. And I'm not in any way belittling the entertainers, like you're in your space, because the entertainers always have the huge numbers. I mean, when I was last speaking I remember talking to Yomaps at length about this, and Yomaps was giving me Diamond Platinum's numbers. I mean, he's got 9 million on his channel, but it's not that. That's not even where the thing got me amazed. It was the earnings that he gets off his YouTube. Diamond Platinum makes north of $100,000 every month on his platform. Just music content, just the videos, the streamings, $100,000 a month, not a year, a month. And I won't mention Yomaps just so that I don't, because he got into trouble. The tax people on him like a ton of bricks. The first Land Cruiser he bought, they took that for tax purposes. I thought that was, hard, but he did it, and he's bought another nice car anyway, so it's not a problem. But the point is, imagine the value of a Land Cruiser was just taxes that they claim he didn't pay. But what's interesting though, which is I think sad, and that's why we need this to work, is that Yomaps effectively pays tax 3 times. Because first, in the US, they extract money because he's using a US platform. Remember?
30%.
Yes, absolutely, very substantial. Then it comes down to his handlers in South Africa. They also get taxed, even though they are pushing that money forward to Zambia. Then when it comes to Zambia, it's considered as income. So he is taxed on whatever income comes in again. So for him, I can confirm he loses over 50%, not including the transaction charges. Because remember, all this money is moving about. So there are transaction fees that are going on with all that money moving around. So we're losing over 50% of income.
And do you realize? Do you realize what you've just said is the reason why a lot of Nigerian entertainers have moved to America? So that they don't lose that money. They'll get at least 80%.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame anybody, my man, because really, honestly, getting 50% of your income goes. So imagine if you're earning 100,000, like diamonds, and then 50% of that is going. Because diamonds, they have an advantage. East Africa, Kenya is monetized. So they just leverage Kenya. And Kenya is really ahead in terms of monetization and all these things. Zimbabwe is more ahead than us. Zimbabwe, the only problem Zimbabwe has now is sanctions. So the moment sanctions are lifted out of Zimbabwe, they will leapfrog beyond us in a jiffy like that. They'll be gone. Because they already have all the infrastructure and the systems, which unfortunately we don't have. I want to hear from you guys exactly where the problem is, because we've all been in this committee running around. So I know B-Flow and his team, the new ZAM guys, are doing what they can. They're talking to everybody. The funny thing about our country is that everybody admits, we need to. But the funny thing is, like, where is the problem? Who is blocking this, from happening? Maybe Duncan, you may enlighten us a little bit on that.
Yeah, we've been talking about this, and we've been scratching our heads as to the reason why Zambia is not monetized. So there are different reasons for different platforms.
Yeah.
For YouTube, from what I have learned and what I've heard in different conversations, and now I made my own conclusion. It is that we are not advertising enough on YouTube. And this is across the board. So our corporates are not using the YouTube advertising platform to advertise enough. I know some of them are, but not enough of them are.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, and then as content creators ourselves, the musicians, the bloggers, vloggers, foodies, and artists are also not using the YouTube platform to advertise enough. Because, you know, like, for example, on some Zambian channels, you'll be watching a video, and in the middle of your video, a Nigerian has put his whole music video as advertising.
Yes.
You know, we put in so much money into content creation, but we are not putting double the amount in advertising. This is what our friends are doing differently, you know.
Yeah.
So we need to work on that. We need to work on that, budgets and, you know, funding and you know, where we are putting our money. So that's for YouTube. For PayPal, I don't even know, because we have tried everything. The banks have offered to, you know, partner with PayPal on making this thing happen. We are able to receive the money. Some people are even able to withdraw it somewhere, but I think to get it at the ATM or something, it becomes a challenge.
Yeah.
So
no, Go on. Sorry.
I know, people will, you know, use all sorts of roundabout ways of getting their money. You know, sending it to their relative in the UK or the US, who will then send it to them. Lose money in the process. You know, they'll register their account in another country. There's a very good friend of mine. You might know him. His name is Mulonda Singogi Mulos. He's got a very good YouTube channel, and he's quite knowledgeable on, you know, these ways around of getting your money into the country. But at the end of the day, there must be a simpler way that we can help Zambians, you know, not lose so much money in the process of trying to get a few dollars or a couple of dollars, you know.
In fact, let me sorry, go ahead, Levy. I was going to.
Yeah. I have two questions to ask around the same content creation landscape and how it looks like. But you may go on first with your contribution, or then I'll come back.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, you know, the only way this is going to work, and I understand what the Ministry of Sports and Arts are trying to do, especially through PS Fumbachama. They are doing so much, but they need, this is my proposal, and all of you agree with it because we've talked about it. They need a fully funded task force, because one of the biggest challenges, you all know this very well, is the logistics for getting to the bottom of everything. You know, normally you will notice that when government wants to solve an issue, they create a task force. The task force is funded, and they are given capacity. So you'll have a vehicle, or you'll have access to transport, or you have sitting allowances, or whatever it is. But you need to have some means by which people can spend the time. I'll use a totally unrelated industry to demonstrate my point. One of the industries that has a very powerful lobby group is the insurance industry. You know, the insurance industry realized that there were many aspects of their businesses that were suffering because the regulator, which is the Pensions and Insurance Authority, were just regulators. But there were so many concerns that the industry had which were not being addressed, including some legislative laws and issues. So what they did is they got together, because they are a big industry, so they got together and formed what is called the Insurers Association of Zambia, whose function was to be a lobby group who were going to push all the critical issues that the industry was suffering in order to bring about the influence of policy. And they did a good job. Of course, the industry has got the power, the money, so they were able to pull money into the association as a membership, and then use that to set up a secretariat with an executive director and some staff. And so what that did then now was to become the noise maker that would push across all the issues for the industry. So they have done a brilliant job. Now, in the ordinary space, we've got things like ZACI, the Zambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. But ZACI is the voice of the private sector, and the private sector is massive. We all fall in there somewhere. But the truth is, they have so many other issues they're dealing with. We're the last on that list. So we needed something that can run, but it has to be, to be honest, if it's going to work, it has to be funded, because all of you here, you know, we have put our money, our time, our effort, our skill into pushing this, but it's not sustainable, because you got situations where they say, look, you got to go to wherever and find out what they say. No, go to whoever. No, come back and go. Oh, put a paper together. And then you're working, you're putting this thing, and then at the end of the day, you've also got your bread and butter stuff.
Yep.
So I feel that's one area we're really struggling, and it's got to. If we're gonna look at this, I mean, the $300 million should be good enough incentive for government to really push and fund a group. Even if we have one person funded, but they represent the secretariat, the rest of us are volunteers, that's fine. But this one is tasked with a proper, job description and deliverables and KPIs, and you go out there and can you get these things happening within the next 2 months, and get somebody quite intelligent, get somebody with a bit of, clout, who has the knowledge on lobbying and the like, because somebody with an NGO background, because that's what's going to work. So they know how to now begin to draw the resources to make this sustainable. So literally a project, if you ask me. But even the proposals, I mean, I'll tell you, we were asked, okay, put up a proposal. Who's going to do that? Who's going to commit the time? Because putting up a project proposal is no joke. So who's going to, give up their time to do this proposal and this project, and then, take it round? And I mean, that's why we need an association. Sorry to jump the gun there, Levy, but for me, I feel that's where we're kind of stuck, because we're having too many volunteers, and you know what? Sorry again to come in. We've worked with Ministry of Sports and Arts. We've worked with them. Very, very, very good people. But you know what? I will honestly tell you, they are stretched. They are so stretched. I mean, the amount of work that sits on those people's desks, it's practically impossible to get them to really lock in. They try, but they have just too much on their desks. They don't have enough time.
But my question is this to that. Why isn't this a priority? Because making this a priority will honestly change the lives of
millions,
a good percentage of the Zambian population. This should be a priority. I'm going to be a little bit controversial and say, do they feel like if this thing happens, a lot of talent will then be taken out of the working class? People will be now self-employed. People will be making their own money, so they'll be too free. I don't know. I'm just being a little bit controversial, but yeah.
I'll leave Rev to answer that question, because I feel
I am with you. I am with you, because I feel it. The number of people. I mean, just imagine, Duncan, the number of youth that would be taken off the so-called unemployment space with an open, gig economy like that, where you can do secretarial work. Because you see what Singapore does, right? Singapore, especially Singapore. Singapore is the one, and India, in fact, sorry to even bring Singapore. India is the #1 gig economy in the world. But of course, they delivered because they created the infrastructure, and then it was cheaper for Microsoft, Apple, Google, whoever, to subcontract a lot of work into India, and India happily did it. But what did that do for them? It had the knowledge transfer, technological transfer. Now India can produce so much, leveraging off what they learned all those years, just like the Chinese as well. So you see, but India for me just takes the creed because they have done it so well. I mean, right now I use Google Workspace. 90% of the times when I'm engaging customer service, it's Indians I'm dealing with. Like in people of India, but it's Google. And they're doing the work and doing it so well. And you're like, wow, these guys. And look at what they've been able to produce. Most of the apps, if the #1 app center in the world is India, app producing center. The #1 web management hosting services, India. You know, and they are really taking advantage of this. They are making literally billions because of this thing we're failing to tap into. So I don't know, Duncan, just like kind of throwing this back to Levy because it's from the Internet Society. Is it that we are failing to get these legislators to see the potential? Do you think that's where the problem is? Where are we? Why can't they see it? You know, they're talking about agriculture, mining, but here's a $300 million space. You know, somebody told me the equivalent of this is what ZRA taxes out of, I've forgotten. I think the payee from the mining sector is about 300 million. If we can get that same level of income in this, like how much would ZRA earn from this? How much would government benefit from this? How much pressure would reduce on unemployed youths walking around?
Lots of pressure.
You really drop it. But no, we want everybody to be employed by government. And that's the part that just, you know, hurts me because government can't employ everybody. In fact, for me, I don't like the idea of government employing people because for me, government it is not designed to produce. Government does not produce. So we need private sector to be more active. And, you know, today I was talking to a very learned man and he was telling me that even agriculture-wise, do you know that we don't even come close in our numbers to hitting those international level farming? We're not there. So our biggest sector is still the mines. But look at what nightmare it's been like with the mines when there's a problem. The whole country comes to the country just because there are problems with KCM, Mopani. And to be honest, I'm tired of hearing that. But we've got nothing. Apparently, over 75% of our revenue in this country is from the mines. So can you imagine? We don't have the money. So why can't they do something and bring focus on this?
And you know, you've just made me make a connection there, especially with the job market. We are going to fall behind very fast because in the next 5 years, there are certain jobs that are going to become obsolete on the on the international market. And you know, most of the jobs obviously are going to focus. Most of the jobs that are going to be in demand are going to focus more on IT. You know, artificial intelligence. You know, building apps. You know, coding and stuff like that. These other jobs like clerical work, bank clerks, tellers, accounting is all going to become automated. Now, if Zambia is not fully monetized by 2030, it's going to be a disaster.
A big one, sir, because the whole world is becoming.
We actually need this. It's an emergency, actually.
Yes.
Let me bring you back.
Talk to us.
Yeah.
So I'll answer a question and get back to my questions. What is government's understanding? My personal take is, I think also partly, if this sounds controversial, the people that I mentioned will forgive me. We have been talking about internet governance, for example, and when it comes to internet governance across on the legal end, it's sad to say that most local lawyers feel they understand it better than those that have been working in the space, right? A good example is they would want to talk about digital rights training today when you have civil society organizations that have been working on digital rights as far back as 2018. And those are the ones they're bringing to teach on digital rights and monitoring. And they're like, we actually have a better understanding of the landscape that we can actually train you. So it's an issue of those that actually need to understand the entire ecosystem around these things. Feel they have a better understanding, then they need to teach those that have been working in this space. So in the end, priorities seem to be mismatched, that getting everyone to understand that this is where we are at, this is the direction we should get to, doesn't come close, because the ones that have been working in the space are being taught to come and sit and learn from those that need to actually learn from them. So who has to know the priority? The ones that need to see the overall impact of this are the ones who are coming, wanting to teach those that have been working in this space. So till we get to a place where there's that understanding, then you begin to see a shift of actually the need to prioritize this particular sector. It takes me back. I think the late Ngandu Magande wanted to start taxing slowly the informal sector, right? And the gig economy in this particular case is one of the bigger informal sectors that you may obviously get to government has to benefit from taxes and the like. So far, no one is looking at it, but they've been taxing mobile money transactions because they're believing every little transaction is probably an income generated version. So we need to tax even just a simple sending a gift to someone in monetary form. But if they understood how big this would be, if the gig economy is actually working and thriving, we have all these monetization, they'll benefit more than just the taxes on you sending money to someone, you receiving money from someone, because that becomes a better base for them to actually get the money. But how is it priority to them? Probably they haven't seen it as a holistic source of tax from their end. I think we need to have a chat with ZRA on this. What do you think, Rev? But that's probably
I think so. Because you see, look, I mean, there's another area where, one of the reasons why, for example, sorry, again, we're getting controversial. Which other area is government making a killing money-wise in taxes? It's in the betting industry. The betting industry is huge in capital letters. But we all know that the betting industry is far more harmful because of the casualties it leaves behind. It's not a secret that people are in serious debt right now. People have committed suicide because of betting. But betting is huge. It's huge. The money, the revenue betting is insane. I mean, nothing comes close. That's why even in Europe, in America, they've been singing about all the betting industry. But to change those laws, when government looks at what they are going to lose financially, they stop short of that. And so this one, like the betting thing, is not going away. But why can they at least give support to this field we are in, where if they can get this gig economy going, this is huge money. This is taking advantage of the digital platforms. I mean, everybody, no one will even argue right now how influential and powerful the digital platforms are today. They have taken, the whole digital space has taken center stage. Now, Facebook, okay, yes, we are 3 million users in Zambia, so it's not even a blink. But for whatever it's worth, Facebook,
4 million as of September.
Oh, it's 4 million. Okay. Oh, wow. Well, that's it's not bad at all. So 4 million. I mean, if 10% of that number could actually generate income in one way or another, that's huge. And remember, it's not just Facebook, because this is an ecosystem. So you've got YouTube, you've got TikTok, which is huge, to be honest.
TikTok
and then
is
you've
huge.
got and then X. These are massive platforms. In Zambia, we have laws, of course. So the laws do not allow for distribution of pornographic material. So thank God for that. But if we were to talk objectively, like if I take my whole Christian reverend thing out of it, that industry has been generating insane amount of monies for people. Even I'm actually getting to the painful conclusion that some of these videos we're seeing today, I'm now learning, are actually being sent to porn sites that pay. I'm not going to say the amount because I'll just literally be advertising. So I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. But they are paying money. That's why we're seeing a higher frequency of these videos being leaked, because when they go on those platforms, and those platforms obviously share them on Telegram, and then before you know it, Zambians access that, and then that's how they're leaking. So what's very interesting is that even in such an illicit space, you see how monetization works. So imagine if government put effort into legitimizing these platforms where there's decent, genuine work being done, so that people can earn for their skills instead of sitting around. I mean, these days we even say it all the time. All you need to make a living today is just a handset and internet
Just your
connection.
phone.
Just imagine that. That's it. And you can start creating content. You remember the kids that do the somersaults? Do you know that's some serious income potential there? There's that, those numbers. I don't know where they are, but I used to see the somersaults all over the place.
They're
That
everywhere.
stuff. Do you know that stuff? There's a whole space in social media called X, and your nitro games and all this this dangerous stuff they do with the flips and the skateboards and the flying and the air, whatever. And I love watching that stuff. I don't know why. I just love it. So you see that unfortunately, many of them die because they keep on doing crazy stunts. But it doesn't change the fact that they generate huge amounts of following, huge numbers of views, rack up very high views. And that's how many of those are surviving. So you find people with talent like those kids. I mean, come on, it's good content. You do those every day. You just go do your flips or do your dances, and people watch that, and you make money. I mean, we really need to open that up. It's a travesty that people with that level of creativity are stuck in this place. Back to you, Levy.
Okay. So I'm now stuck between trying to keep this conversation into an hour, or we slightly go overboard. But whatever the case, I apologize earlier. We might take it to 1 hour 30, but in case we don't get there, that's better.
Remember, we still have calls. I'm not even putting the number, because when I put that number, I know the calls
will open the call lines in about 10 minutes. So if you want to call, please be on the lookout. So 2 questions. I'm taking this to both Rev and Duncan. Earlier, you mentioned about YouTube advertising not being so good. Recently, I was out of the country, and I think I've gone out quite a bit recently. And my comparison is, there are countries where when I'm on YouTube, even if I'm on the PC, a video will literally be paused for an ad or 2, right?
Yes.
When I come back home, I have the luxury of not experiencing all that distraction.
Yeah.
It applies to Meta. In Zambia, it's not as frequent as outside, right? When you have those ads coming up. The bigger concern is, I think, which is one of the webinars we'll be having in the next few weeks, with someone who works with Google in a sense, and probably someone who works with Meta, is the fact that we don't have enough companies, either locally or outside, that advertise on YouTube to Zambians. As of 2024 December, we had about 340,000 YouTube users. That's a small number for YouTube to consider spending its energy on monetization, right?
Yeah.
Facebook, equally, it's a bit smaller, but compared to our population, that's about 18%. I won't get much into the percentage of the numbers, but we have a number of among content creators that are creating content that has a reach beyond Zambia. When you talk about artists, which is the next part that I want to get most of your thoughts between Duncan and Reverend Water, is we have a lot of Zambian music being used in most of these videos. And interestingly, there are actually some international videos that have used Zambian songs to their taglines. One of the popular artists is Yomaps, for example. And interestingly, there's one track that I think I took time to check fully. I think we did it with Rev at some point. We noticed he was not the main original uploader of that particular content. Meaning, by implication, he doesn't benefit from the royalties that Facebook pays for that particular song. That's where now intellectual property becomes borderless, right? Before I get it back to the two of you, in June, I was having a chat with one of the South African media guys who was fighting a case of them not owning the copyrights of a Lucky Dube YouTube channel, yet they were the original producers of almost all his songs.
Wow.
Because someone else from outside South Africa set up the YouTube channel Lucky Dube, uploaded almost all his songs to their channel. And YouTube pays the original creator of it. And now it becomes an international IP case, which, to be honest, in Zambia at the moment, we don't have enough resources to start fighting those battles. So the question now I have is,
before your question comes, another example here in Zambia is Matthew Ngulube. Sorry, not Matthew Ngulube, Matthew. That's something that even what's his name, Hezron mentioned at his funeral. That somebody in the US registered Matthew Ngosa's YouTube channel and put up all the music, and not just YouTube. I think even on one of those platforms, Holster, Spotify and
Spotify, Apple Music.
Yes.
Deezer and like.
Go on, please. But yeah, so in short, Matthew's not earning any money off all of that.
Wow.
So the question is, we have such creatives in the country that are creating content with room for use across the globe. They are not benefiting. The few that are benefiting have over 50% lost because of the whole money transfer rat chase, as we would call it. What then do we do about online monetization for artists and other content creators that mostly work around IP related data, intellectual property, for lack of a better term? How do we work around monetization for those ones to ensure that they benefit from their royalties, but also as we are fighting the payment system to be good, what do we do about it?
Okay, I think I'll take this one first. Thank you for pointing this out. This is a very, very important one. I think the very first thing, before we even rush to the end goal of, how do people benefit from their money, is the education part. We need to educate our creators, our artists, and in the case of artists that created music or art, books and the like, but passed away, we need to educate their families that there are royalties sitting somewhere waiting for them. Maybe in some cases, some people are like you've said, they're benefiting because they've taken advantage of the situation. And this has happened for Zambian music in the case of Zamrock, where someone came from Germany. He found that no one was making money from Zamrock. He got all the music. He even started creating the music, and selling it, and then an American guy came and said, hey, wait a minute. How are you making money off this music? And their surviving members, or their family members are there. And they took each other to court, and the Americans won. And what the Americans did is they bought the music and then are now helping the surviving members and the family members get their money. So we need education. We need workshops. We need webinars. We need seminars. We need to educate everyone so that they know. Have all their music registered with all the right bodies who will actually help them out there. For music, there's BMI. I'm sure for books and the like, there are some publishing houses that will be able to help them. We do have some good local publishing houses, but there's still a lot of work that can be done there. So I feel like there's a lot of work to be done, but we need to start with education.
I couldn't agree more with you.
Before you come in, if someone is listening to this conversation and you know an artist or artists I want you to tag them and ask them to follow this conversation, because it helps not only them now, but I've seen artists retire or something like that happens, but they could still benefit from their career. So tag them in this conversation, and then we could probably have another chat just talking about musicians, content creators around intellectual properties like authors and the like, to just look at it a bit more detailed. But if you know someone, you can tag them in this chat, let them follow through, and then from there we can pick it up later. So back to you, Ray.
Yeah, I mean, what you raise also is so powerful because, recently, again, through the Ministry of Sports and Art, especially the arts department there, they did a lot of good work and they brought in quite a number of experts. And one of the greatest fears is that what you just mentioned there, Duncan, the registration of what they call the what's it called? The metadata. The metadata. So you notice that there's been a lot of work going on in Zambia recently among the artists, and there's no metadata for it. So what is metadata, in case people don't understand? If you used to buy CDs back in the day, the real ones, not these CDs they do in Zambia with just two, no, but there was, even though they used to try even with us, when you open, you would actually see, the song, who wrote it, who played in that song, like all the instrumentalists, and producer, who produced that. And that's metadata, and the year it was produced. That information is so critical because that's the one that goes into the international copyright whatever platforms, and it's the one that they use for royalty. This gentleman running the royalty thing from Africa actually mentioned something very sad. He said that in excess of $10 million, I think between $5 and $10 million, is sitting in this Royal Society copyright thing, which is designated Zambia, but there's no metadata. So you don't know who to pay because this music went out there, royalties were collected well and good, no data. And let me mention what you talked about, very powerful there when you talked about the Zamrock era. Right now, there are only 2 Zamrock artists that are benefiting, especially one, very well, because there is a cult following of Zamrock right now in Europe, in America. And when I talk about cult following, like it's like the way you have people who follow Back to the Future and the way you have people who follow, Ozzy Osbourne. There's these cult followings, and they have a huge love for this Zamrock. So Uncle Zachary and Uncle Ricky have been doing tours these last 10 years, literally Europe, America, and getting paid really well because it's people who love the music. And what's that's done is we've seen our music even being played on a number of blockbuster movies. I mean, like literally, wow, that's Uncle Derek Mbao. Let me listen, Derek Moyo, that's Derek Moyo. Like, wow, you hear Ricky, you hear Pongos, you hear whoever, and you realize, and what's been happening is that money now, because of those Americans, has been getting collected and paid. I mean, the most touching story I heard was for Ali Kinkata. Apparently the BBC used Ali Kata, one of Ali Kinkata's songs, for decades, not just years, decades. And all that royalty was being collected. So recently, somebody heard about these royalties in the UK and said, look, actually that man has relatives in Zambia. They said, oh, really? Yes, because there's this money that's been sitting here. And I was told it's in the hundreds of thousands of pounds. And so through that connection, they were able to get that money, and it finally ended with the family. But you can imagine stuff done from 50, 60 years ago. But it was able to continue generating money. And the saddest story in that space has got to be Fadil Muhammad. You've ever heard of Fadil? Oh, anyway, let me just explain. Fadil Muhammad is the original author of the song Malaika. And what Fadil Muhammad did was he sang that song. Miriam Makeba heard it. She redid it, and then it just went international. And there was never any credit. So Fadil Muhammad died a pauper, but when international people got wind of what was going on, they did a lawsuit and won. So Fadil Muhammad, like 70 years after his death, the family was just told, okay, who are the family members? There's this money, class act suit, money was gotten, and it was paid. So that's
Wow.
that's how profound this work is. And one of the things I'm fearing with the Zambians right now is because they are not registering metadata, they are actually standing to lose income, because some of these places they've signed up to, who are doing full ownership of product and produce and paying big money, what's happening is that those contracts are going to last about 5 years, and then after the 5 years, 10 years, the rights revert. So they no longer revert to the artist because the artist sold them. So they go
Absolutely.
now to the companies. And do you know the implications? What if now, 25 years later, there's a revival of that music and everybody wants that sound? That artist is old, they don't get a penny. So that's one of the greatest, most serious tragedies. I know people are like, you know what, let me get my 10 million now. It's okay. Fine, yes, get your 10 million now. But the implication is royalty-based music. You don't know when it can revive. We've seen it internationally where old songs just come back from nowhere and people start making money again from it because it featured in some movie. Like all of a sudden, that song goes to #1 and does a whole new thing again, just because though it was released 15 years earlier, and they make money off it again. There are some people who've lived their whole life off one hit. I mean, Duncan, you know what I'm talking about, isn't it? One hit.
I know it.
And that song has fed them, fed their children, fed their grandchildren. Like
It will
died
feed them for generations. Yeah.
Absolutely. Back to you.
And you know,
So
this is going to be happening over and over for Zambia, because they haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg in terms of Zambian diamonds and Zambian gems with Kalindula, our arts, our authors, you know, the Zambians that do alternative music. They haven't even got there yet, you know. Yeah.
And for sure, that one, Duncan, that is so true. And that's why Tanzania also kind of suffers the same thing, although at least they've got people like Diamonds, but they also suffered that because they had that old 70s and 60s music, which they did, similar to Zambia. Remember, we had National Pitch and Kazembe. A lot of people don't know that National Pitch and Kazembe was huge in Kenya, huge, and made serious money. Yeah, but then you now look at the rights. Who owns the right to National Pitch and Kazembe's music? Who owns the right to Pongo? Not Pongo's, but Pongo's we know. But what's the other guy? There's another guy from that era, Keith Mlevo. And then you've got another very big name from that era, Emmanuel Mulemina, the Mulemina Boys. You know, that whole group. These were the authentic Kalindula sound. So who owns that right now? Still Records doesn't exist. So who's sitting with the rights to that? How many people are aware? And now Black, I forgot the name. Where Smokey Angala was a member, the name is Blackfoot. No, Blackfoot.
Blackfoot.
Was it
Yes. It's all over the place, really, to be honest with you.
Yes, they've revived, absolutely. So I've got Witch here, I've got The Witch, I've got Ricky Longa, I've got Blackfoot. And that music has come like with a serious bang in that cult group. It's not here in Zambia, but in those cult groups. Now Blackfoot has nobody alive. Nobody's alive. So imagine the implications of the royalties in that. And that's why this whole year, really, we need to get this going. We need to get this monetization in place. We need to get this metadata in place. We need to get the education you talked about. Those need to be sponsored workshops where people are really taught the value of that money and the intellectual property they are producing. It's scary. Back to you. I know our time has gone. Maybe we can take calls. I don't know.
We can allow for calls for now. While I have two questions, one question and one comment to read from our Facebook audience on Reverend Waters' Facebook page. I'm avoiding going to the other platforms. But nonetheless, so the number can go through. You're free to call on WhatsApp so that we are able to get your calls, and then, well, I think get 3 calls at least on this very live session. But before we do that, or while waiting for the call, there's one comment. Is there an NGO or add an organization that is available for artists to go to help to get clarity yeah, to get help on this particular issue.
Maybe Duncan can answer because I'm not aware. Yeah, that's for
Yeah,
Duncan,
right.
definitely.
So I actually have some comments as well from because I connected to the Zone Fam TV Facebook, and Mr. Mundia Joshua Namunji says YouTube will not monetize because corporates don't advertise. And do we have critical mass? Can this be attributed to high data prices and device prices? Therefore, people will not be regular and longer on YouTube. And then he also says the quality of our internet connection. Are our ISPs meeting their mandates on the quality of service? And lastly, he says legislation can take a long time. The best is to partner with entities in friendly countries so that they can help us monetize.
That's what they're doing, but then you see how much it's costing. How 50% is going to pay. That's what all the ones who are monetizing. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But we've got the line.
Yeah. Levy, so what was the question, Levy?
The question is: are there organizations that artists can go to get some of these things addressed in terms of copyrights issues, something like that?
I mean, we've got the Zambia Copyright Society, Zamcops, who are supposed to register all the artists and get their royalties paid. But to be very honest, I mean, I was a member of Zamcops for a very long time. I registered in 2005 when I recorded my first EP in a bedroom studio. But I was a member for over 15 years and never received a royalty. And I mean, look, I'll be honest and say, look, I'm not a Yomaps, I'm not the biggest artist ever, but I've had lots of my music played on radio, over the years. I feel like Zamcops can still do a better job in terms of being transparent. So now what we are having is a situation where a lot of our local artists are now registering with international copyright societies like BMI, like ASCAP, and even in South Africa, there's SAMRO, because they are doing a better job at being transparent, at reporting, at paying the money, and connecting artists to bigger opportunities like getting sync placements. You know what you were talking about, Rev, where the music is playing in series. That's what is called sync placements. It's the biggest component of the music industry. People make more money from sync placements than they get from live music or touring or royalties. Sync placements is the next big thing.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that because I think I remember hearing something recently that kind of broke my heart. I can't confirm it, but I'm told that Zamcops subcontracted or got into some agreement with another copyright whatever organization, I think Africorp something, and it had serious implications on our earnings because now this catalog gets handed over to those, and then a lot of artists are still having issues with just this one. Like, where are the payments? What's going on? How much is really being paid? Blah, blah, blah. And remember, all these places are paying fees to play the music. So Zamcops has done a good job in making sure there are licenses for anywhere where they pipe music. Fine. But then where's the money for the artists? How much are they paying? What kind of checks are they? This one is public domain. Yomap said he's owed, I think, 2 million kwacha or something. He's never seen it. Wow. Maybe they've paid him, but he's never seen the money. It's been a song for years. And I mean, there's no doubt about it. Yomaps is one of the most, played artists in Zambia, all over the place. Reading, but he's never got his money. So if Yomaps hasn't been paid, who's Duncan? Who is the hoster?
Who is the hoster?
Okay. Let me read one comment and ask my last question. Then if we have a call, we'll pick one. If not, we'll get into the concluding part and then I'll make my play.
So basic things we'll see it. Mhm.
So there's a comment from Annie Monsaga. She says, for tech innovations, the Patent Corporations Treaty, PCT, establishes a cost-effective means for companies and innovators to seek patent protection for inventions in multiple countries. A single international patent application successfully filed under the
Mm.
PCT has the same legal effect as filing separate patent applications in all contracting states. It currently has 158 contracting states. So I'm lost with a bit of technicality, but I guess the bottom line is there is an organization that does international patenting. I need to read into it because I think that's quite something to consider. I hope
That's
it's
interesting.
very transparent and
Yeah,
beneficial
I
for.
think what I know myself is that the Creative Industries Business Summit, which has been hosted under the auspices of the Ministry of Sport and Arts, specifically arts under NAC and all that, have been trying to get that all going. One of the things that gets to me, and I don't want this to be my ticket out of that circle. So I'm trying to be very very mindful what I'm about to say. But one of the things that gets me is I'm sick and tired of talking jobs. I don't know if you get it, guys. I'm just I don't think we need more seminars. What we need is more practical, step by step solutions. We do the seminar, yes. We do the meetings, yes. But after that, what are the takeaways? What are the KPIs? What's our roadmap? What are we starting to effect? So that we move beyond just getting people to sit in a meeting, complain, because you know that it's going to be the same complaints. Everything we've said on this would be said there.
Mhm.
Hey, and then the part that really pisses me off, all the big ministers and famous people will just be there for the opening where they do those same boring speeches. I'm sorry to say, just the same. We realize, we recognize, we are cognizant under the leadership. Man, I'm just sick of that stuff. What I want is, can we have the minister, can we have the PS sitting there? Can we get stuff going? Can we have technical people? There are really powerful technical people in the ministries with the knowledge, the technocrats, who sit there and get the real people that are needed to sit in there to guide, like what Annie Monsaka just recommended. Let's get real guidance. And then we say, okay, so who's going to be tasked with this? And then we come up with a roadmap. You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to be having these conferences, you bring people in, and then 3 days you're there, just lunch, breakfast, lunch, 5 days, and after that, 1 year, next year, another meeting. I'm
Rev,
so exhausted. I won't lie, Duncan.
Rev,
I'm
but
just
I'm also thinking, Rev, could it be that there is a way around this without it having to have a task force and have it go through a PS and the government? Like, there must be
we
another
can.
way.
There's a way. And you know what the way is, Duncan? You've already said it.
Mm,
We need to create a project and find
mm,
funders, because funders exist. The issue is just
mm,
come up with a project proposal and then form an NGO and then have it funded with very clear objectives and run with that. That's the way around. Because
yeah.
then that NGO becomes what you call a lobbying platform
A
with
lobby
proper
group,
funding.
yes.
Yes, so they can do workshops and all that stuff. That's our workaround. But you still need the covering of the government, because you know how it is. If this is not endorsed by Ministry of Sports and Arts and things like that, or
Mm,
whoever,
mm,
Congress, you're going nowhere, because all these big funders will say, do you have government backup?
mm.
And government has to come in. Now, government, they are stretched. So it becomes a merry-go-round. We start going round
Yeah.
in circles, going nowhere. That's the only way out. But to be honest, I am lethargic. I'm tired. I am exhausted with these workshops. I tell you, you reach my age, you've been in this space this long, you kind of start getting fed up. It was like, you know what? So we're gonna have another workshop. All right, the president is opening. Wow, the president is opening. Wow, I'm so excited. Then you're gonna have the talk. I really want to see something different now. We just need
Mm.
practicals. And you feel it. You know, when the Zambian artists sitting there and then they start talking, that's when you feel, you see the anger they have. This thing, and then, you know, as usual, somebody's up there with the book. We have,
let me cut
you know, glasses.
let me cut
We have taken note. We've taken note. We've taken note. Damn, they've been taking notes for, I don't know how long, Duncan. They've been taking notes forever.
All right, so 2 last questions from my end. This one is just a comment. Under a minute, please. Each. Under a minute. Person Siwale, I think, made a comment on the Internet Society Zambia Facebook. He says, I hear there was a bill passed in Parliament about monetization in Zambia. How true is that, and what is Parliament doing about it? I'm not aware of it. Maybe Duncan or Reverend Water?
For me, I know that. Okay, Duncan, start.
Okay, so I think it was Binwo Mpundu, the honorable, had talked about them talking about monetization, and they were going to pass this as a bill. But since then, I have not heard anything.
Yeah, and the reason you not hear anything, Duncan, is because it's the same story. You see, what goes on with these people, like what you said earlier on, Levy, is that they come up with these things and they don't do wide consultations. That's what I know. That just pisses me off. You see, you cannot go and take something to Parliament without consulting the owners. And apparently, this is not a problem just in our space. Apparently, it's the same thing with seed. It's the same thing with, I don't know, agricultural policies. You find that they rush off to start doing a bill, only to discover that the owners all rise up. Hey, what are you about to do? This is going to mess us up. Then they realize, oh, I think we might. Okay, let's put it on pause. Let's go back. I mean, that's so annoying. Why do you bring up a bill without doing wide consultation? That pisses me off. And what normally happens, there's a lot of copy and paste. That's what is really annoying. Copy and paste, you go get some downloaded bill from God knows where, and then you just bring that in, paste, put a bill together, no consulting the locals. So the locals just start learning that, oh, they're about to pass a bill. Oh my God, that's our space. How come no one was consulted from our space? And then all of a sudden the associations rise up and there's noise. So that's exactly what happened with this monetization. You know, you just get excited to go present something in Parliament without checking on the ground what's going on. You excite people for nothing, and then the whole thing grinds to a screeching halt because you didn't consult. So what we're supposed to be is we're supposed to be called to Parliament or wherever, consult line ministries, get the story, what's going on, and really put the effort into that. Like you said, Duncan. So put the effort and get to the bottom of everything. Back to you, Levy.
All right. My final question before I ask for the last comments from all of us. We talked about online monetization, and one of the bigger pains is not being able to receive money via PayPal, yet I make most of the online payments using PayPal. We have, of course, an issue with finding who to reach out to. We almost always end at customer care or customer support. The question I have is, who do we need to engage? What should we do to get their attention for them to act? Because I think we have talked about it enough. We have mentioned what we need. Who do we need to reach out to get this done? And how do we get there if we can't get PayPal directly involved?
Oh, shame, we just lost him. Okay, I'll start. Duncan will come back. And then there's a call trying to come in. Do you want us to, should we take it? We've got a call coming in, and then we'll take the call out.
Yeah, we can take it when we get back in.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're through to our platform, Monetization in Zambia.
Yes, just drawing on from the last sort of like session that you had online regarding ecosystems, right? So I think we're sitting on the potential of, you know, a new ecosystem regarding what you're talking about now, because currently it doesn't exist. I mean, just imagine what the potential is.
Please continue.
Yes, so yeah, there is a potential for growth in the new industry and potential to create jobs for young people. I mean, there's a lot of people sitting without any jobs, and if a new system like this crops up, you can just imagine the potential. So I think there's definitely room for this to gain a whole lot of traction with the right people involved.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate your input. Thank you so very much for that input. Indeed it is. Thank you. All right. So, Holster, sorry, we lost you there, brother. So do you want to answer first the PayPal question, or why? Because I think that was a question. But you want to go ahead, or I start?
I think you can take it, yeah?
Okay. Yeah, so you're right, Levy. We have struggled. We have completely come to a dead screeching halt, and we are not the first ones to do it. I remember Mutwale went to work on that one. We know that as one of the leading commercial banks in Zambia, Zanakwa specifically, was very happy and is still very happy to work with that whole process. But the challenge is who in PayPal can we reach to discuss exactly what the problems are? And that's been almost a wall. So maybe who knows who's watching this? If you're watching this, if you know who we can connect to at that level, at decision level, with somebody high up in the hierarchy, we know for a fact that the Zambian embassy in Washington is very happy to engage and facilitate on behalf of government through, of course, the auspices of the various line ministries, so that this is discussed at that level. We need to connect with somebody who's going to be able to guide and give proper information, especially from PayPal, as to why we can't do this. Now, I will tell you, PayPal has some mad charges, but it's still better than nothing. If we could get paid, it means we could link our banks here, and then we'd be able to receive money. So people like myself do a workaround through South Africa. It's a real nightmare. I also do a workaround through my wife in the US, and they charge a lot of money. I mean, the other day I got paid $500 and they took $30. You know, so
wow.
So you get $500, they take $30. That's substantial. So you get paid 470, and then in that 470 holster, there's a charge. Remember, and then there's the exchange rate, the Remitly and World Remit will always,
which is at a higher. It's at a higher thing, so you make a loss.
Absolutely, absolutely. So by the time you get that money, it's way lower. Even that $470 is not going to come at the official rate you're looking at Bank of Zambia. No, it's going to come much lower. It's like Western Union. It's going to come much lower. So you really do get hit double. And then ZRA will say that was an income, so they'll also take their 4%, turnover tax. So it's rough from all angles. You're being hit from every angle. I get money off my Amazon. I don't even bother bringing it to Zambia. It's just a waste of time. So I keep it in the US. But I tell you, they tax me 30% on Amazon. It's painful. Yeah, 30%. It's quite steep. But that's what it is. Yeah. So Levy, that's the. Yeah.
Any comments about PayPal, or we do our closing remarks?
Yeah, nothing from me. I think that's pretty much it.
All right. So probably as we come to the end, in summary, the online monetization conversation is big. The gig economy in Zambia is growing with huge potentials, not only for government taxes, but also job creation for majority of the youth who are unemployed in Zambia. And it becomes a bigger conversation that we actually need to consider. I would like to share this recording with different media houses, especially those that have been doing tech and business. I hope they can draw a sensible story out of this, because this was a sensible conversation. I'll leave it there as a comment, but I hope we can do that. But just as we get to conclude, in under 2 minutes, because I think we're almost out of time. Yeah, we're actually out of time. Under 2 minutes each, what would be your concluding remarks? And then probably make mention this for now, that we will have another, I think 2 more sessions, one specifically about Meta and YouTube, monetization, but what can we do in the meantime before we get to a level where Meta and Google will be interested to monetize the platforms. But also the other conversation will mostly draw around the PayPal challenges a bit more, and also how can artists and other content creators that work around intellectual property benefit from online monetization, with a few things around patents and so on and so forth. What are your concluding remarks? Then we do a closing session with an announcement of the next webinars, then or the next chats.
All right. Yeah, I think I'll start, and I'll just do a quick rundown of what we already talked about. I think we need to do the education part first for all our creatives, all our artists, so that they can know what they are getting into and they can understand that, you know, they are selling themselves short, basically. The other thing is that we need to keep talking about this. We need to keep talking about it. People need to inform each other, because there's some stuff that I know that other people don't know, and there's some stuff that other people know that I don't know. So we need to connect and, you know, expand our network. Like, there was the lady that called in. If someone out there knows someone that can help us, that's pretty much it.
Okay, yeah, we missed that last part there. I think the internet. Anyway, yeah, but your points are valid, host. I mean, I don't even want to really say much to that, except just to say we really need help. We need somebody that's gonna come in and really give us some direction. And from a government standpoint, a lobby group, not even a lobby, we need a task force that's paid for, so that people's expertise and time that they put in can be accounted for, because we can't run with this without a proper task force. So somebody that has got the power needs to put this together. We've just lost Holster. Needs to put this together so that it can work. And for me, I feel that's the next step, so that we get this going. But I'm also with him on the education. We need more workshops so that people are able to understand what they need to do. And that in turn will make them more aware of how to go about this. So that's my closing remarks.
All right, thank you so much, Rev. I think we'll end here, but in my conclusion, everyone has a role to play. If you know someone who is an artist, share this video with them. If you know someone who is working with government, or someone you know might probably have access to someone at PayPal, either directly or because they're based in the US or UK, please tag them and share this video with them so that we get as much help as we can to just go past the PayPal customer support team. With that said, we will have 2 more sessions on this particular topic, focusing on the platforms and also how then can we help the content creators to ensure that they don't only use the platforms and also are part of the products, but also they benefit in monetary terms on these particular platforms. And so from me, Levy Syanseke with Internet Society Zambia chapter, Reverend Walter, we've been working on monetization, I think, voluntarily as a volunteer task force. This is our 3rd year, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. I'm ashamed to admit, yes.
That was one of the reasons why we had to take this, by the way. So we can short say we've been doing our research in the background. We've understood who was blamed but no longer is the problem, and trying to find the solution. And the conclusion is we need to get hold of people, technical people, to help us do our local integration. But that's at least a product of the 3 years work at a voluntary basis, but much more. We're hoping for the best either case. So Duncan is also part of the voluntary online monetization task force, and we hope for the best from this, as not only just part of the conversation that has been going on by almost everyone who talks about it, but looking at it as a holistic approach to making progress based on what we have learned and also seeking help from those that can help us, especially getting hold of people. So if you're in that position, please do share with someone. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you for listening. Do take time to revisit this or share with someone who can watch it later. With that said, thank you so much for taking your time to attend. And thanks to that
Thank you.
very special one caller.
Thank you. Let's stay on the call. Let's stay on the call. Let's stay on the call. I'm ending this now.